People ask me, how do you want the viewer to respond? And I think my ideal viewer would experience an emotion that we don't even have a name for. And that emotion is a feeling of being aware that you are warming to something that you were originally averse to, that you found difficult. It's a kind of anti-xenophobia. For me, I guess what the whole show is about is how we relate to difference, especially in a context where technology is changing the way we understand nature. So, for example, when you come across a work like Kindred, which is the orangutan mother, we look at her and we think, she's different from us. She's a humanoid, but she's different from us. In fact, she's different from her children. Her children are lesser and lesser animal, more human. And then we understand, if we spend enough time with it, that in fact the work is about how connected they are. I mean, the whole show is about sex. It's about fecundity, the potential to reproduce. I mean, there are fruiting bodies and pollinators and pregnancies and mothers and babies. But in the couple, we see this kind of nascent adolescent sexuality. It's a kind of anti-Frankenstein story. In the novel, the monster asks Frankenstein for a mate, and Dr. Frankenstein starts to make it. And then he decides not to, and he tears her to shreds. In the couple, they may have had human input into their creation, but destiny now is in their hands because they can reproduce. I spent a lot of time just in my studio, just thinking and reading and talking to people and listening to people. And eventually I come up with something that I want to discuss with the viewer, and then I do a lot of drawings around it. And if there's one that stands out, I'll go out of my room and talk to the rest of the people in my studio and say, I want to make this. So sometimes I might make a silicon work, sometimes I might make a video or a drawing. It just depends on what's the most appropriate delivery for this idea, and how can I engage in a conversation with the public.
Wow.
I care very much about these works because they embody ideas that I think are crucial to what it means to live a life today. I try and imbue these works with as much thought and effort and care as possible. And the reason why I do this is because I think there's a lot at stake. In some ways, what I think I'm doing is I'm creating myths. And I do that because I think that it's easier for us to connect to ideas that are difficult if it is in this sort of mythological context. I make these narratives, and what they do is make space around these sort of very terrifying ideas about the environment and how we change the environment, so that we can come in as individuals and make our own stories. And by doing that, they give us a kind of agency to then go out and act.